Welcome back, my friends. Currently, we're on day 325 of Russia's disastrous invasion of Ukraine, and Russia has just launched their 10th mass missile strike on Ukrainian civilian targets, attempting to hit critical infrastructure. Every week or two for the last 3 or 4 months, the Russians have been launching these coordinated missile attacks in an attempt to terrorize the civilian population. This time it was S-300 and 400 missiles coming from the northern direction, as well as cruise missiles coming from the south. In total, Russia launched about 38, and 25 of them were successfully intercepted. The problem is that means that 13 did hit civilian targets. So here is a farm 50 miles west of Kyiv that got hit with a pretty big missile. Here is an energy facility that was also hit in the city of Kharkiv. And Kharkiv currently is without power. This is Ukraine's second largest city, population of 1.4 million people. And this is what a city of 1.4 million people looks like without power, heating, and water in the month of January. The big story, though, is the death toll continues to rise after a Russian missile strike in the city of Dnipro. And this was a 9-story residential apartment building full of women and children and elderly people just trying to sleep. And here is the most recent numbers as of the time I'm filming this video. As of now, 39 people were rescued, including 6 children. 25 people have died, including 1 child. 73 people were injured, including 13 children. 43 people are still missing, potentially under the rubble. Preliminarily, 72 apartments were destroyed, and more than 230 apartments were damaged. And here's a picture of just someone's kitchen. Some Ukrainian family doing their best to survive during this war. This is their TV that they like to watch while cooking. This is their microwave where they would reheat yesterday's leftovers. This is their kitchen table with a bowl of apples on it waiting to be consumed. And now their life is in shambles. It's ruined. This is all that the Russians can offer anyone. Let me share a couple clips with you. The first one is of local residents rushing to the scene to help clear debris, help find survivors under the rubble. Here is a horrifying photo of a 23-year-old Ukrainian woman who survived the attack, and she's currently stranded on the 5th floor of the building, waiting to be rescued by firefighters. Unfortunately for this woman, she's already lost her loved one fighting in the war, and her parents were in this building, still missing. Here's a clip I'm going to share with you. A lot of these photos and videos I can't share because this video will then get age restricted. But here's a video of first responders asking for everyone to be silent because they're looking for survivors in the rubble. There are people still alive sending text messages waiting to be rescued. I spent most of yesterday watching these videos and seeing these pictures, and there's no difference. There's no difference between what the Ukrainian civilian population is experiencing and the terrorist attacks that Americans have experienced or Europeans have experienced. And I'm afraid that, yes, the world is becoming desensitized to this violence 11 months into the conflict. On any other day in any other year, this would be a moment for the entire world to come together, to rally behind the Ukrainians, give them the love and support that they need and deserve right now in the face of these terrorist attacks. But because of Russian disinformation of, oh, there are Nazis in Ukraine, there are biolabs in Ukraine, just by pumping out this noise, these conspiracy theories, people around the world are hesitating. They're hesitating to give Ukraine the love and support they deserve and need right now that other nations in the face of terrorist attacks have received. So how did Russia do it? And Russia used a 6-ton Kh-22 missile carrying a 1-ton warhead. And this missile was designed by the Soviets in the 1960s to destroy US aircraft carriers. They're using anti-aircraft carrier missiles to destroy apartment blocks in Ukraine. So how many more missiles does Russia have left? This is the question that I ask every day. How much longer is this going to go on? The short answer is no one outside of Russia has indisputable numbers on its stockpiles and production rates. Ukraine released figures, but they have not been independently verified. There are also estimates from Western analysts relying on observable clues. Many estimates agree on one thing, though. Russia's strategic bombing campaign is burning through missiles at an unsustainable rate. If it keeps going, Russia should come to a point where it won't be able to launch mass strikes every 1 to 2 weeks anymore, even if it keeps dipping into its strategic reserves. Ukraine says that at this point there is just 3 mass strikes away. So maybe once again every week or two, Russia is going to continue launching these missiles, but we can see from the strike just this week, they only launched 38. They don't have 100 in their existing inventory to keep launching all of these missiles. And how did we get to this point where Russia is using anti-aircraft carrier missiles to blow up apartment blocks? And the answer is the world didn't do anything when Russia destroyed Grozny. The world didn't do anything when Russia destroyed Aleppo. The world didn't do anything when Russia invaded Georgia. And the world didn't do enough when Russia invaded Crimea in 2014. Because Russian energy exports are so nice and Russian money is so great, I think there was this delusion in Western democracies that if we just treated Russia like a normal international actor, then eventually they would live up to those expectations. They would just somehow magically convert into a peaceful neighbor, cooperating and trading with all of their neighbors. That delusion is gone. We now know this is never going to happen. Here's a quote from Michael McFowell. He used to be the U.S. ambassador to Russia. I'm not an expert on World War II history, but were people in 1943 still discussing what annexed lands Hitler would get to keep as part of a peace settlement. Any delusions, any fantasies that Putin and Russia are going to be allowed to keep any territory that they militarily seized, this needs to stop. This needs to end today. This is never going to be tolerated. It's never going to happen. Russia needs to be expelled and return to their 1991 UN-recognized borders. Here is the address from President Zelensky last night. Can Russian terror be stopped? Yes. Can it be done in any other way than on the battlefield in Ukraine? Unfortunately, no.
Чи можна зупинити російський терор? Так. Чи можна зробити це якось інакше, ніж на полі бою в Україні? На жаль, ні. Це можна і треба зробити на нашій землі, в нашому небі, у нашому морі. Що для цього потрібно? Та зброя, яка є на складах у наших партнерів, і якої так очікують наші воїни. Будь-які умовляння або час, який просто спливає, не здатні зупинити терористів, які методично вбивають наших людей ракетами, купленими в Ірані дронами, своєю артилерією, танками і мінометами. Увесь світ знає, що і як здатне.
The only way to end this war, the only way to save lives, is to give Ukraine all of the military equipment they need to defeat the Russians. F-16s, ATACMS missiles, Gray Eagle drones, and yes, tanks. Send in the tanks. The United Kingdom will send Challenger tanks to Ukraine, according to their British Prime Minister. So to all of my British subscribers, I thank you personally. This is a dam that had to break. The first country to step forward saying, we will do it. Other nations will follow your lead. So a squadron of 14 Challenger 2 tanks will be sent, in addition to 30 155mm self-propelled guns. These are going to make a huge difference on the battlefield. Poland, I think, is also going to definitely deliver these 14 Leopard 2 tanks. They're going to tell Germany they can go F themselves, and I think at this meeting in Ramstein happening next week, a coalition of other nations, probably including Denmark, Finland, maybe Canada and Spain, will start making announcements that they will also be sending Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. So what is the Russian reaction? British decision to send heavy tanks to Ukraine prompts a Russian warning. Here's what Russia says. Bringing tanks to the conflict zone far from drawing the hostilities to a close will only serve to intensify combat operations, generating more casualties, including among them the civilian population. This is according to the Russian embassy in London. Fuck you, Russia. You're already blowing up apartment blocks with anti-aircraft carrier missiles. No one believes anything you say anymore. The only way for this war to end is for you to be defeated, for you to retreat back to your own UN-recognized borders. I also think anybody watching this video, we need to start giving grief to and calling out Western media that continues these bogus headlines, such as this. This is Sky News. Britain's decision to provide Ukraine with tanks risks angering Putin, who will likely see the move as a major escalation in this war. Putin is the one who won't accept defeat, and he's the one that is continuously escalating. Mobilizing 300,000 men, that was an escalation. The continuous conscription, the next wave of mobilization that is probably coming this month, that is an escalation. Putin doesn't need the West's help to escalate this war. So let's cover some other headlines. As Russia claims a win, analysts say the capture of the mining town of Soledar is a Pyrrhic victory. And I'm a native English speaker. I don't know what this word means, so I had to Google it. And Pyrrhic means of a victory won at too great a cost to have been worthwhile for the victor. So the narrative here is, yes, the Wagner mercenaries took the mining town of Soledar, pre-war population of 10,000 people. but they lost so many troops and they expended so many resources that they're now incapable of having any momentum to carry forward. It's going to take them weeks or months to reconstitute themselves to go after their true objective, the city of Bakhmut, which had a pre-war population 7 times larger than the mining town of Soledar. If you want to enjoy some revenge that the Ukrainian military got, I will link this video in a pinned comment down below. This is about 25 Wagner mercenaries in the town of Soledar, and they're being watched by drones, and they all marched into this building with a green roof, and the Ukrainians called in a HIMARS strike. So this building is about to explode spectacularly, and I don't think any of those Wagner mercenaries made it. Additionally, with the successful capture of this town of Soledar, the Russian military is fighting with the Wagner mercenaries for taking credits. So when the town was reported taking, on Russian state TV, it was the Russian military who said they're the ones who did it. They didn't give the Wagner mercenaries credits. For the last couple months, the Wagner mercenaries more and more have been putting out criticism, propaganda, I don't really know what to call it, of the Russian military. They've been critical of Sergei Shoigu and Gerasimov. So the Russian military doesn't want to give the Wagner mercenaries any kudos, any credits. They don't want to help their prestige and profile inside of Russia. So there is political infighting currently happening amongst the Russians as manpower and resources are limited. So let's check in with the average Russian mobilized man, and every day, every week, there's another one of these viral videos of groups of Russian mobilized men freezing to death in Ukraine, filming videos begging for help, begging for anyone to improve their current condition.
Добрый вечер. Дело такое. Это мобилизованные Новосибирской области. Находимся в зоне боевых действий. Просим помощи жены, сестры, кто чем может. Мы тут сделать ничего не можем. Стоят глушилки. Позвонить никуда ничего не можем. Вот кое-как договорились, что-то разобрались. Я завтра выезжаю в Луганск, отправляю это видео. В общем, содержание видео такое. Нас отправляют на переднюю линию, прямо на переднюю. Выезжает оттуда двумя методами. Либо груз 200, либо 300. Все. Мы здесь сделать ничего не можем. Мужики сидят в окопах месяцами, просто сидят. Приезжают, выгружаются с Урала, КамАЗа, без разницы, транспортные средства. И сидят просто в окопах месяцами, ждут прилета. У нас уже 4 в первый же день, 4 человека 200 уже отправили. Прям в первый же день.
These Russian men are still living under the delusion that there are people in the Russian government that care if they live or die. Nobody in their leadership chain cares if these men live or die. If these mobilized Russian men want to survive this war, they need to immediately lay down their arms, put their hands in the air, and start walking towards the nearest Ukrainian position. That is their only hope for surviving this war. Next story you should know about is that President Zelensky says he wants to visit the United Nations to give an address on the anniversary of the invasion. So this will be coming up next month, February 24th. And I guess President Zelensky is going to fly back to the United States to give an address to the UN General Assembly in New York City. And more than likely, he's going to do this in English. I think his English address to the US Congress had a huge impact. It was a very large media event here in the United States. So if he can make another appearance in February and speak to the UN General Assembly, I think this will get a lot of media attention for Ukraine. Here's an interesting headline. Ukraine credits local beavers for unwittingly bolstering its defenses. Their dams make the ground marshy and impassable. So along the border zone between Belarus and Ukraine, people aren't going there because it's mined. So nobody is clearing out these beaver dams being built that is turning the border area into kind of a marshland. This will make it more difficult for the Russians and Belarusians to cross the border to invade Ukraine. So Ukraine is thanking the beavers, and of course, because it's the internet, there's adorable pictures and memes now of how beavers are fighting on the side of Ukraine. Final clip I have for you is of border guards from the city of Odessa, and they're going to perform a Ukrainian folk song called The Little Swallow.
Попробуем.
Прилетіла ластівочка, стала собі щебетати, господаря вилетіти. Щедрик, щедрик, щедрівочка, прилетіла ластівочка, стала собі щебетати, господаря викликати. Вийди, вийди, господарю, подивися на пошару, на мовички покотилися, ягнички народили. Тебе товар весь хороший, будеш мати вірку грошей. Тебе товар весь хороший, будеш мати вірку грошей. Тебе товар весь хороший, будеш мати вірку грошей.
This was a difficult week for Ukraine, but Ukraine is going to win this war. That's all for this update video. Glory to the heroes, glory to Ukraine. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support my channel. Comments or questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, take care, be safe.